be here. And one reason is that recently, every place I go, my presentations are about Afghanistan, and I talk about that horrible situation, and in the Q&A I have to answer the question, what do you think we should be doing? You know, I'm completely at a loss. So here we are, we're not talking about Afghanistan, we're talking about, as I discovered when I sat down there, we're talking about the writing life. And I told my wife, I thought the title of my speech was Your Life a Story. And she said, that's your workshop. And I said, thank God I didn't prepare a speech. I have been actually mulling this thing of life as story, and I think I can weave these things together, because for me, the writing life began when I was like 5 or 6, you know, and I already loved stories, and my impulse was to write stories because I love stories. I think it was that I wanted people to tell me stories, and finally I just wanted so many stories nobody could sit still for it. So they wouldn't tell me a story, and I had to learn how to write and write my own stories. And I wrote a story. I think my first story was I saw the treasured what do you call it, Classics Illustrated version of Moby Dick, and it really pissed me off, you know, that white whale. And then I read an encyclopedia article that the blue whale was the biggest animal that had ever lived on Earth, bigger even than the dinosaurs. I was so impressed. So I sat down and I wrote a story, a novel actually, for a 6 or 7 year old. It's a novel to write 2 pages with illustrations, and this novel was called Mr. Blue versus Moby Dick. And Mr. Blue wins. Kicks ass actually. But anyway. There was a certain point at which, along with fiction about pirates and robbers and things of this nature, I started writing, novels based on my life. I think I was about 12 or 13 when I undertook to write a comic novel about a kid somewhat like me, who was the despair of his parents, a bookworm, blah, blah, blah. I got maybe a couple of chapters into it. And later, when I was living in Portland, I just graduated from Reed College. I was, a hippie. You guys remember how it was in 1970, some of you. And, I felt dramatic about my life. I had fallen in love. She had left. I was unhappy. And one of the things that I was doing as a producer of words was simply just writing down everything that had happened. That wasn't fiction, that wasn't anything, that was just, I just wanted to get it down. But the other impulse that I had was to write a sensitive novel about a guy much like me. Who fell in love with a girl much like Lisa. I worked on this during a period of time when my psychological state was catastrophic, and writing this novel was some part of working that out, turning this life into a story. And when I was finished, the only person I showed it to was my mother, And my mother said, son, this is crap. So she is the only person who ever did see that novel. I burned it, and life went on, and life went on, and there in Portland, in the next 4 or 5 years, I feel like I was part of a thing that happened in that era. Some of you may have been part of it, and some of you not. But for me in Portland, and for the people I knew, we were dead certain that civilization as we knew it was coming to an end. It was all going to collapse, this corrupt, corporate-controlled, world, and that it was going to fall of its own weight. No revolution needed, and the time had come to start building the world that would replace that one. And so I was part of this world, sort of tribal, and we had farms, and we had our own radio stations, and this and that. One of the things that we had was our own newspaper, the Portland Scribe, and I was, I shouldn't say I was a writer or an editor, because you know, part of our new age, new world thinking was you're not going to be tied down to little roles like that. You're not going to be an editor and another person. Everyone is going to do free to do what they want, you know, with whatever their talents take them to. And but my talents, amongst other things, you know, part of my talents was being a collective guy and sitting in meetings for 12 hours a day, working out the politics of our newspaper. But the other talent that I had was presumably writing, and I was a sort of a reporter. And when I say a sort of a reporter, I mean that in the course of my career at the Portland Scribe, I perfected a certain kind of journalism that was all my own. And what it was the entertaining account of how I failed to get the story. It was clear that I was never really going to be a journalist. You know, that was towards the end of my career there. Jimmy Carter was running for president, Jerry Brown was running for president. It was that presidential season. And so Jimmy Carter was coming to town, and all the journalists were going to go there and interview him. And I went there, and there was nobody there. And I was puzzled. And then I discovered, oh, he's at the other end of the airport. And so I went running. But here's the one little moment in my journalistic career. Somehow they had screwed up too. And he was supposed to be where I was. So he was running. And behind him there was a pack of reporters trying to catch up. He was in front and I was running towards. Have you seen Clairol commercials? And we met, just him and me. He put up, you know, he saw me coming and he just put his hand out and said, "Hi, Jimmy Carter, I'm running for president." And the curious experience was that, you know, he had and has a kindly sort of avuncular look to him, but when I got up within a foot of him, all of a sudden what I saw was a tough, shrewd politician. And for crying out loud, you don't get to that level unless you're some of that at least. Then later, I was at the Scribe office, and I called somebody that I had talked to in the Carter campaign, and but accidentally I called the Jerry Brown headquarters. And I asked for that guy. And whoever answered the phone said, "Well, he just stepped out." But well, no, it was the Carter campaign, and I was trying to get a hold of the Jerry Brown people. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But whoever it was said he just stepped out. And I said, "Wait a minute, who did I just call? Did I call the Carter headquarters?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "I thought that guy worked for the Jerry Brown campaign." There was this moment of pause, and then the guy said, "You want to meet for coffee?" And I said, "Okay." So I realized that something was funny here. There was somebody spying on somebody. And I went and had coffee with this guy. And he said, "You know, these things happen. It's just a mix-up, bureaucratic. You know how it is. I mean, listen, what can I do for you? Do you want 5 minutes with the candidate?" And it's like, whoa. That's big, you know, if you're a journalist, at 5 minutes alone with the candidate. But the way I felt was, this is so awkward. I've caught these guys in this thing, and this is like socially very uncomfortable. And my whole impulse was to say, "Oh, please, no. You don't have to. I'm sorry." And so I didn't get I turned down my 5 minutes with the candidate. So that was my career as a journalist at the